ever crack open a book, I don't know, well-loved, that the pages almost seem to, like, whisper stories from the past?
Yeah.
That's the feeling I get from Madeline Martin's The Book Lover's Library,
Yeah.
Especially towards the end there.
Right.
Like from chapter 37 through to epilogue. Those final chapters really hit differently.
They do.
So, like, for anyone tuning in who maybe hasn't had the chance to dive into this one yet, we meet Emma.
Okay.
She's living in 1930s England.
Got it.
And she's already dealing with, oh man, some heavy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like the loss of her childhood bookshop to a fire.
Oh.
It's rough. And she ends up finding work at this place called Boots Booklover's Library.
Okay.
Which, I gotta say, sounds way more glamorous than, like, my local library branch.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Boots. They were all about this whole experience, especially for women.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they knew a beautiful space, that sense of community, even like a warm drink.
Right.
It could make a world of difference.
Exactly. And yet, this is all happening as World War II is starting to,
Looming.
Yeah, loom large. Those air raid drills, those gas masks, that constant fear of bombings, those weren't just things Morton made up for the story.
Yeah.
People in England back then, they lived with that every single day.
Exactly. And Martin, she doesn't shy away from it,
No, not at all.
Like, remember that moment, the gut punch, when Emma has to send Olivia, her daughter, away?
Oh, my heart broke for her. Sending your child away, not even knowing what the future holds.
It's a universal fear, right?
Absolutely.
But especially during wartime, so many mothers face that agonizing choice.
And that scene where Emma's packing Olivia's bag, tucking in the gas mask. I mean, come on.
It's heartbreaking.
And then the way she pours everything into knitting that red jumper, trying to hold on to some sense of control in a world that feels like it's spinning out of control.
It's resilience.
Yeah.
That strength to find these little pockets of joy amidst all this uncertainty.
For sure.
And for Emma, that joy, it comes back, at least a little, when she finally starts reading aloud to Olivia.
And the book she chooses, Anne of Green Gables.
Classic.
Right. It was such a source of comfort for people back then.
Absolutely.
And I love how Martin weaves those little historical details in, those shared experiences that still resonate today,
Totally. It's like she's building a bridge between then and now.
Yeah. And speaking of bridges, the bombing raid on Nottingham, oh boy. That's a turning point in the story, wouldn't you say?
A huge turning point, yeah.
Even though, like, deep down as a reader, you're hoping, praying for a happy ending.
Of course.
Martin creates this incredible tension as Emma's searching for Olivia amidst all the wreckage.
The way she writes it, you're right there with Emma in the chaos, the fear.
It's a reminder that war doesn't discriminate. It just disrupts.
Exactly.
And it's in those moments of chaos that her connection with Charles, it deepens. Have you noticed that?
Definitely. Like, their relationship, it speaks to that primal human need for connection, right? To find comfort in the most unlikely places, even when the world feels like it's falling apart around you.
Yeah. And their relationship, it's not all, sunshine and roses amidst the bombs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Not at all. There's this real nuance to it.
It's complicated. They come from different worlds. They have different baggage. And then there's that moment, that gut punch, when Emma finds the damaged books at the library.
Ugh, that scene gets me every time.
Me too.
It's not just about the books themselves, though, right?
No, it's about what they represent.
Exactly. It's this stark reminder that even those havens, those places we think are safe, war touches everything.
It's true. It really does feel like everything changes after those bombs drop.
Yeah.
Like it forces everyone to face this new reality, this fragility. And yet, there's this amazing sense of community that emerges from the wreckage,
Absolutely. Like, take Mrs. Pickering, for instance.
Oh, Emma's landlady.
Yeah, she just dives headfirst into war work, always there with a cuppa and a shoulder to cry on.
Right. Always ready to lend a hand.
And then there's Mr. Sanderson, the grumpy neighbor.
Oh, yeah. What about him?
He ends up surprising everyone, even himself, with how much he steps up.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's those little acts of kindness, that really stand out.
Yeah, for sure. It's like those small gestures. They mean so much more when the world feels like it's falling apart.
Totally. And it shows how resilient people can be, even when things are tough.
For sure. For sure. It's like, in the face of all this chaos, people find a way to band together.
Exactly. They find strength in each other. And I think that's something Martin captures really well in this book.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of strength, Emma, she goes through quite a transformation, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. She really comes into her own.
She does, and I love how she challenges those societal expectations of what a woman should be.
Right. Like, especially back then, being a single mother,
So tough.
it was not easy.
Yeah.
But Emma, she finds a way to make it work.
She really does. She finds her own path, her own strength. And her work at the library, that becomes such a lifeline for her.
Absolutely. It's more than just a job for her, isn't it?
It's a sanctuary, a purpose. It's where she connects with people, shares her love of books. It's where she finds herself, I think.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's interesting, right, how Martin draws these parallels between her own life and Emma's.
Oh, totally. Like in the author's note, she talks about being a single mother herself, finding inspiration in the strength of women during wartime.
Right. Like, even amidst all that chaos, there's this inherent resilience.
It's inspiring.
It really is. That even when everything feels uncertain, we still search for those moments of beauty, those connections, those little glimmers of hope.
And sometimes you find them in the most unexpected places.
Exactly. Like, remember that scene with Olivia's birthday candle?
Oh, yeah, when she wishes for a new red jumper?
Yes. On the surface, it's such a simple, childlike wish.
It is, but...
But knowing everything Emma went through to make that first jumper, the fear of losing her daughter, that wish takes on a whole new meaning.
Ugh, the layers. So good. It just reinforces how powerful that bond between them is.
It really does. Like, even in the midst of everything, love finds a way.
It's like even with everything going on around them, you can't help but root for that little family.
Oh, absolutely. And the way Martin brings it all together at the end, it's hopeful without being, cheesy or unrealistic.
Right. Like Olivia comes home, Emma and Charles, they finally find their fitting. And the community, they really rally around them.
It's not a perfect ending, right? The war's still there, looming in the background.
Yeah, it's always there.
But it's that reminder that even in the midst of all that uncertainty, those moments of joy, those connections, they matter. And they're worth fighting for.
They really are. And I don't know if you caught this, but there's this one scene towards the end. Remember Grace and Mr. Evans from the last bookshop in London?
Oh, right, yeah.
We get this little glimpse of them, just a brief mention, but it's like the subtle nod to Martin's other work.
It's like finding a hidden message in a bottle.
Right.
Connecting those stories, those worlds.
Exactly. It makes you realize even though these are fictional characters, their experiences, their struggles, they reflect something very real about what it means to be human, no matter the time or the place.
Absolutely. And in this particular story, I think that theme, that through line, it's about finding hope in the most unlikely of places. Like, remember those damaged books? They weren't just damaged goods. They represented something that had been broken.
Yeah. Right. A sense of loss, the fragility of it all.
Exactly. But then you see Emma, she picks up the pieces, she rebuilds, she finds love again.
Yeah.
Even amidst all that loss.
She does. It's like even when things fall apart, there's always a way to pick up the pieces and start again.
And that's a powerful message. For anyone listening who might be going through their own struggles, facing their own uncertainties, remember Emma's story. Remember that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope. And sometimes, all it takes is a good book, a moment of connection, a reminder that you're not alone.
Beautifully said. And with that, we'll turn the page on this week's deep dive. But tell me, what will you carry with you from the Booklover's library? Let us know in the comments below, and until next time, happy reading.